Hello and welcome everyone. I'm your host, Ken Schneider, and you're listening to Human Resources, the Triangle's #1 most syndicated business podcast. You've heard of them before.
Get rid of all of them tomorrow. Got rid of the whole 12 floors.
He said, I'm not going to pay you. I said, well, then I'm going to have to sue you.
But why do you need to wreck this company? Because it's wreckable, all right?
Fact or fiction, activist investors remain one of the most contentious figures on Wall Street, known for waging hostile proxy wars where they join forces with other shareholders to gather enough votes to achieve power over a company. Many people criticize activist investing as unethical. In today's episode, we speak with ethics professor Sarah McCann from Dartmouth University, discussing the morality of this investment style. What is the moral controversy behind activist investing?
Well, that depends on what ethical lens you use. One lens is the consequentialist utilitarian perspective, where you judge the morality of an action based on the pain or pleasure that results from its consequences. To decide whether activist investing is moral, you have to calculate the pain or pleasure of all the agents affected in a potential proxy contest, such as shareholders, employees, company execs, and the activist investor themselves.
So under this lens, is it more ethical for an investor to drop the suit or launch a proxy battle?
The most ethical decision would be to drop the suit. While the investor and shareholders may face pain of foregoing a potential increase in total shareholder return, their pain is outweighed by the pleasure of the employees and execs who experience certain relief. 3 of 7 factors examined by the utilitarian lens are crucial here: certainty, intensity, and extent. Without the proxy battle, the company is guaranteed to not be pressured into restructuring their operations and forced to issue layoffs. Furthermore, the C-suite of the company are not pressured into relinquishing their board seats or compensation packages.
So would a proxy battle therefore be immoral?
Yes, under this lens it would. There is a potential upside that could result from an activist investor increasing dividends or using other levers to increase TSR, but the certainty is so low that the extent and the intensity of the pleasure is outweighed by its unlikelihood. There is a much greater chance that the proxy battle ends in green mail, in which shareholders would not derive any monetary benefit from. The certainty of the intense pain exceeds the low certainty of the pleasure, making proxy battles immoral.
Would activist investing be immoral through a different lens?
Well, under the deontological view, where you look at the intentions of an action, we should break the activist investors into 2 categories: vultures, who invest for short-term personal gain, and white knights, who are activists like Bill Ackman that invest to bring positive changes. For vultures, when we universalize their intentions, there is a dilemma. If every activist invested solely for personal gain, companies would not be able to exist, as they would be starved of capital. Thus, activist vultures are immoral. When we universalize white knights, there wouldn't be a need for activist investors, as every company would be forced or compelled into operating perfectly. Therefore, regardless of the intent, the first categorical imperative of Kant is violated.
So if it's so immoral, why isn't it illegal?
That's a great question, but we can't always take these analyses at face value. The main criticism for utilitarianism is that we rely heavily on assumptions. It's very hard to quantify the number of people affected by activist investors and quantify their pain or pleasure. For deontology, investors can be intending to do good things, but yet Kant still proclaims it as wrong because it can't be universalized, or also because proxy wars always involve using people to achieve their goal, therefore using people as a means rather than an ends. For example, Carl Icahn launched a proxy battle with McDonald's for the intent of increasing ethically supplied pork. Kant may call this immoral, but should we? Well, maybe not. Anyway, back to legality. The SEC has set regulations over the past few decades that may limit the potential upsides for activist investing. It might be years, though, until regulators eliminate the practice entirely.
Thank you, Dr. McCann, for the input, and thank you, audience, for listening to this week's episode. In our next episode, we'll talk about McDonald's using, quote, ethnically sourced pork. Stay tuned.